She forged Clyde's name on fertility agreements. She forged Clyde's name on contractual agreements that would pay her a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars if she got pregnant. And then she, with her dance partner boyfriend, she gets pregnant, tells Clyde that it's his baby, and when she is 8.5 months pregnant, she stages a rape and torture hoax that ended up with the SWAT team kicking down the door to their house and dragging Clyde out in the middle of the night in just his basketball shorts at 72 years old.
You gotta be kidding me. Welcome to my podcast, Cases Gone Wild, with your host, Jon Marko, me, brought to you by Marko Law. Over my nearly 2 decades in the legal industry, I've seen the craziest, most insane, wildest stories that you just won't believe. And we bring these true stories to you live on the show. And I have a great show for you today with a special guest from the West Coast, from San Jose, California, Michael Crosby, the man who I met like on a ranch in the middle of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, drinking beers on a washer and dryer machine, doing dishes like we were back in college. Mike Crosby, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, my friend. How you doing, John?
I'm good, man. We're still in the transition studio, as you can see here. So we're almost completion, hopefully soon, of the new Cases Gone Wild studio. But you're gonna have to deal with our impromptu studio. So you're great, man. It is so good to see you. You are a very prominent attorney. I know your father had a practice in California. You followed in his footsteps. When I met you, we were out at Jerry Spence's ranch in Wyoming, where we were invited to go learn and become better lawyers. And you're around my age, and you have 4 kids like me, and you work your butt off. So tell us about what you're doing now.
Well, John, I first off, I appreciate the intro, and yes, we had just the best time on the ranch out in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming together. Right now, I am busy as you are. We both have 4 kids, taking the kids to school, making sure we get to sporting events, and then also juggling a full-time practice. I'm very blessed, as you said, to be working with my dad, and I have for almost 20 years now, and it could not be more fun. And we just have the best time together. We get tons of interesting cases, mostly in the business litigation and trust and estate litigation field. So I'll probably be a little bit different perspective than some of our other buddies who've been on your show.
Yeah, but you know what? You're a trial lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And you do business litigation and stuff, but you're in trial a lot. And because I keep in touch with you, trial lawyers, I think, are a small group, and I think we like to stay in touch with each other on what we're doing in the trial world. Last time I talked to you, you were in the middle of a 9-week jury trial. So the longest trial I've ever been in was, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, and I'll tell you, it was a long time. I mean, that's longer than like anybody's ever been on vacation. I mean, at least me. But like 9 weeks in trial. Were you in trial every day? Tell us about this case.
Well, I was in trial 4 days a week, and then we had Fridays dark, which frankly was a blessing because I don't know how else I would have been able to keep up with the rest of our practice and to prepare for the continuing day after day grind of being in trial. So having the Fridays off was great. But that was an interesting case where I represented an attorney, another prominent, from a prominent family in San Jose, who was being sued for a combination of negligence and fraud because one of his friends, a disbarred lawyer, was pretending to be my client in telephone calls to the court. He would call the court and say, "Hi, my name is Bob, and I represent so-and-so." And we ended up getting into all kinds of shenanigans with a plaintiff who, frankly, just would not take accountability. It was the plaintiff's fault that all this stuff had happened throughout the case. He wouldn't take accountability for it. He wanted $20 million from my client, and after a 9-week jury trial, he got $60,000.
Well, wait a minute, Crosby. Explain this to me. So your client is a lawyer, right?
Correct.
And his buddy or somebody who's disbarred lawyer pretends to be your client? Like,
yes.
Why? Why would he do that?
So we have a plaintiff named David on the other side. He loses a trial in 2010. And then he loses.
Is this the disbarred guy?
No, this is another the plaintiff lawyer who is suing my client.
All right, another lawyer who's also a lawyer.
No, he's just a regular business owner.
Oh, he's a business owner. Okay.
He's a business owner. He loses a completely separate case back in 2010. He loses on appeal in 2012, and he wants to sue his lawyers for malpractice. So he hires a lawyer named Mike, okay? My client's name is Bob. Okay. So David hires Mike to represent him. Mike subsequently gets suspended by the State Bar of California.
For what?
For a variety of substance abuse issues mostly, okay. And letting cases kind of languish because of it. And so they had a 1-year statute out here to sue for malpractice. Well, Mike is suspended. So what he does is he files the lawsuit and he puts Bob's name on the caption and signs Bob's name to file the lawsuit.
Well, hold on. Was he working with Bob?
They were friends, yes.
But like, were they in the same firm? Were they in the same law firm?
No, they were just friends going way back. It'd be like you and me hanging out together, and then me just filing a case under Jon Marko's name and just neglecting to tell you about it for about 9 months.
He never told them about it?
No. Bob found out about it about 9 months into the case when he started getting some mail at his office with discovery.
So he's like, what is this? I don't have this case.
Yeah. So Bob calls up Mike and says, "Mike, what's going on here? I have no idea what this is about." And Mike tells him, "Don't sweat it. We're going to settle soon. I'm going to get you off the papers. Everything will be fine. I'm going to be Mike anticipated being reinstated shortly. Yeah. Well, that never happened. Mike ended up getting disbarred permanently. The case, nothing happens with the case. The case gets terminating sanctions for a lack of failure, discovery responses.
So the lawyer just like stopped doing anything and then gets disbarred.
He gets disbarred. But while he's disbarred, he is calling the San Francisco County Superior Court for court cases for this case, saying, "Hi, I'm Bob, and I represent so-and-so," and just pretending to be Bob for court appearances and for telephone calls from opposing counsel.
Oh, my God. So that's crazy, dude. So what happened? So the client of the disbarred attorney then sues Bob?
Yes. So he knows, the client David, he knows that Mike is broke. Mike has nothing.
The disbarred guy.
The disbarred lawyer has nothing.
He spent it all on drugs.
Exactly. So David, first off, David goes to the district attorney's office. Mike pleads to a felony, unauthorized practice of law. Mike's wife and paralegal pleads to a misdemeanor for the aiding and abetting the unauthorized practice of law. My guy pleads to aiding and abetting the unauthorized practice of law. So we're in this trial now. So now David sues my guy because my guy has money, and that's the only reason why my guy gets sued. And we're saying, hey, we weren't even involved, but David is making up a story saying that Bob was involved. And to try to get the hard part of this case, John, was that I have a bunch of people on my side who are all, either felons or convicted of misdemeanors. And not on top of that, my client Bob, who's a great guy, by the way, he just got caught up in this. Bob had signed in California, you may have it in Michigan, he signed declarations of fault, right? Saying, hey, it was my fault that the discovery didn't get answered. So please reverse these terminating sanctions. Let us answer the discovery and have the cases go forward, right?
Oh, no.
So the Court of Appeal and the Superior Court before that said, nope, case is over. So now, in my case, I've got these declarations of fault that the plaintiff is waving around, saying, look, he admitted it was all his fault. And so I had to navigate around that as well.
So two questions kind of mine. One, how did this case take 9 weeks? Because that's a long time.
You know, frankly, it was the plaintiff's attorney who just took forever. Everything he did was slow. The examination was slow and monotonous and monotone. And it was, again, we're trying cases 4 days a week, but we only had maybe 7 or 8 witnesses. But it took a while because in order to get the big dollars, the plaintiff had to prove the case within a case.
Because it's a legal malpractice case.
Correct.
His first case a long time ago that the attorney messed up or allegedly messed up, he has to prove that he would have won that case had the other.
Exactly. So
this sounds like a very litigious guy. He's suing everybody. Litigious.
Yeah. And he screwed up from the very beginning. I tell people all the time, you know, he knew that there was going to be a fight over this $7 or $8 million back, 20 years ago. He knew it. He still distributed all the money to shareholders, wiped it out. All he had to do was set that aside, fight over it for a couple of years, probably would have settled, split the pot, and everybody goes home. But he's greedy, and he wanted it all, and so he distributed it to him and his friends.
So how did you essentially win the case? I know you said that your guy got hit with $60,000, but they were asking for a lot of money.
They were asking for close to $20 million. And the way we won the case was I, first off, showed that the plaintiff himself lacked credibility. I mean, you and I talk about this, John. If you have a good, sincere client, which I did, I find that I'm so far ahead of the game in these trials and in cases in general when I have an authentic and sincere and credible client who, it's amazing how many attorneys, John, that you and I deal with who don't deal with the bruises on the apple at all. And it ends up costing them. And in this case, the plaintiff didn't even mention in his opening statement, for example, that he had never communicated with my client in writing and had never paid him a penny. Didn't tell the jury that in opening. So the first time the jury hears that is from me, and they're sitting there bugging out with their eyes going, well, wait a minute, why is your guy being sued then? So.
Yeah. So he didn't do a good job. Well, that's crazy. Well, congratulations, Crosby. You had some other cases that when we were getting ready, you told me about that are just crazy. Some type of rape and torture hoax. What is this? What is going on here? A torture hoax? It sounds like a movie.
I'll never have a case that tops this one, honestly. I represented, along with my good friend Kurt Seibert, who's a wonderful attorney out here, about 60 years old, a gentleman named Clyde. And Clyde's wife accused Clyde of raping and torturing her for 2 full days. Now, at the time, Clyde was about 70 years old, and the wife was about 34. And Clyde is one of the most interesting people you could ever come across in your entire life. He's from Hardscrabble, East New Mexico, and he was a college All-American back in the 50s. He got drafted by the Cowboys. He dated Miss Nude, New Mexico. That was a thing, apparently. And just ended up moving to Silicon Valley with his brother, and they built a real estate empire in Silicon Valley, just 2 guys from middle of nowhere, New Mexico. And he ends up, long story short, he ends up with this woman who was about 24 years old when they first got together. And she was an au pair and looking for a green card from Sweden. And, they had, as you can imagine, a sort of arrangement in terms of him providing her with a comfortable lifestyle and her providing him with what you would expect. And so, but she was very greedy. She wanted she knew she wasn't going to get anything from him when he died. And so she set up this elaborate plan. And the plan, John, is crazy. She was writing in her diary things like, I'm going to marry Clyde and no prenuptial agreement is going to stop me from getting my fair share.
She wrote that?
What's that?
Diary? She wrote that in her diary?
In her diary, she wrote that. What she ended up doing was that the plan was she would go off on these dance trips. She was a dancer, like a competitive dancer.
Okay.
And she had a friend there, and Clyde didn't care, frankly. And she had a friend. And so essentially, she forged Clyde's name on fertility agreements. She forged Clyde's name on contractual agreements that would pay her a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars if she got pregnant. And then she, with her dance partner boyfriend, she gets pregnant, tells Clyde that it's his baby. And when she is 8.5 months pregnant, she stages a rape and torture hoax that ended up with the SWAT team kicking down the door to their house and dragging Clyde out in the middle of the night in just his basketball shorts at 72 years old at the time. So
you gotta be kidding me. This is insane. So what did she tell the police that Clyde had done?
She told the police that Clyde had chained her to the bed naked with a spiked dog collar around her neck and had raped her with a golf club and beat her over the course of 2 days. That's what she told the police.
Did she have like marks on her face? Was she bruised and battered?
No. And so here's the interesting part, John. So when she calls the police, Clyde gets arrested, and Kurt Seibert was Clyde's criminal attorney. This is back in 2012, 2013 probably. And so Kurt immediately goes through Clyde's house and gathers up as much as he can possibly find before the police have a chance to, go do their own sweep, which is where Kurt found the diary that she had drafted. So her story starts to unravel pretty quickly. She goes to the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, and she tells about 5 different stories to 5 different nurses and law enforcement personnel over the course of a day and a half, all of which are transcribed, all of which conflict. And now the case is making international news because of the wealth of my client and the allegations. And eventually, the criminal case gets dismissed, within 9 months or so.
The prosecutor says, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. It falls apart, and I'll get back to that in a second. She has she finds some do-gooder attorney who wants to do a civil case. This is where I get involved. But the interesting part about the criminal case was that she had claimed that she was handcuffed behind her back, okay? That Clyde had handcuffed her, but she kept a burner phone under the mattress in the other wing of the house. So she claims that she dialed 911 behind her back and then flips the phone to the ground and then leans straight over her 8.5-month pregnant stomach and presses the send button with her tongue to dial out. Oh my God. So the judge in the criminal case, he has one of these famous, Johnny Cochran kind of lines where he says, if the tongue can't dial, there won't be a trial. And dismisses the criminal case.
Oh my gosh.
So
then what's this? So then how were you involved? If the criminal case is dismissed, Clyde's not being charged. I'm sure this was traumatic for Clyde.
It was, and he's a funny guy. It hurt him tremendously, but he does things like I'm watching the interrogation video. They interrogated him from about midnight till 6 a.m. without an attorney, and eventually he thought they were going to let him go home. He had no idea what the allegations were. He's sitting there in his basketball shorts, and when he found out he was going to jail, he pretended to have a heart attack, so they would send him to the hospital for a couple of nights so he could get things together. Clyde's phenomenal. But yes, so what happens is they still want to pursue a civil case. So I get brought in to defend this civil case. And
so they sue. She wants to sue Clyde for like sexual assault and stuff. And
yes, battery, torture, sexual assault, all that, emotional distress, the whole 9 yards. So the interesting part about the trial, though, John, it was about a 6-week jury trial. We must have had 40 witnesses, all sorts of sexual assault response team nurses, law enforcement, everybody under the sun. What was interesting about this, though, John, was from an expert witness perspective, I got to do a whole bunch of things I never would have imagined that we would have done with experts. So, for example, we had a utilities expert that was able to come in and show that while my client was gone for 2 days at work, she was using appliances, TVs, everything around the house. She was freely moving around the house, right? So I'd never used a utilities expert before. We did it, and we did it successfully.
How did the person do it? Like show the Netflix login or something?
Yeah. We were able to show PG&E records. We have Pacific Gas and Electric out here in California. And so we're able to show utilities records showing energy usage in the house. And you're watching it spike as opposed to a flat baseline that you would have if nobody's using any extra appliances in the house, right? So we have a utilities expert. We also used really well an acoustic expert. I'd never used an acoustic expert before. These are guys who will do things like they'll work for private companies or even cities, municipalities, and they will test sound coming off of freeways to make sure it's below a certain decibel level so it doesn't invade the neighboring community. I mean, things like that. And the reason why we used an acoustic expert, John, was because the 911 call from the wife lasted about 40 minutes. She was on the line with 911. Wow. Yeah, by the way, great advertisement for your listeners for the Second Amendment, because it took 40 minutes for the police to arrive to a rape and torture call, in a wealthy neighborhood. So you can imagine what they do for the lesser communities.
Oh my God. What city was that in?
San Jose.
Okay.
So, but there was a distinct change in the sound quality, the tone, the volume in the call with about 8 minutes left. And so we had an acoustic expert come in. He bought the exact model cell phone that she used. The expert had one of his female staff members. They messed with the phone, holding it in different positions on the face and down low until they were able to replicate the same sound wave chart that we got from the 911 call. And that sound wave chart showed that she spent when she claimed she was handcuffed, she spent the first 30 minutes of the call talking like you and I would talk on a normal telephone call. And then the last 8 minutes, she was talking with it laying down on her side because she had got herself ready for when the police showed up. And so we were able to show that she was holding the phone like a normal person.
What a sick individual. So that's crazy. So did anything else crazy happen at the trial? Did you cross-examine her?
Kurt cross-examined her for about 4 days. I must have had 20 or 30 different witnesses around that, including the boyfriend. And the boyfriend was great because he testified that, again, people don't know what they're doing, John. And this was a fertility clinic that she was going to go to be inseminated with the boyfriend's semen, okay? And she had forged agreements saying that it was Clyde and not the boyfriend. And so, of course, we had experts that were able to show that the semen count was wildly different between a 32-year-old man and a 72-year-old man, first off. But secondly, the way they talk is just, I said, so what happened? Did you go to the clinic? And he just says it. He goes, no, I just jerked myself off in the car, turned the heater up. He just testifies to that in front of the jury. Yeah, jerked myself off in the car.
Was he like a scumbag type guy?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, who? And so, of course, Leda gets up on the stand, the wife, and she repeats it. Oh, yeah, he just turned the heat up and jerked himself off in the car. And I'm sitting here I'm like dying inside because nobody talks like that in a courtroom, as you know. And the jury's dying, and everybody's just having it was one of the lighter moments of the trial, but we ended up defensing it and completely, and we got our malicious prosecution cross complaint. We won that. What was interesting was,
how much did you win on the malicious prosecution?
Oh, like $80,000 or $100,000. It just, it wasn't.
Did you ever collect it?
We were able to collect it because she had been socking away money from my guy for years. But the one guy...
Did they ever charge her criminally for like making a false police report or what?
No, this was right in the middle of the Me Too movement. And so the DA's office did not want to risk anything by going after a complaint, a purported victim, but she wasn't. It was everybody knew she was lying so clearly. And I told the DA's office, the fact that you're not prosecuting this, it just encourages this kind of behavior going forward.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. That's not like a difference of opinion. Did you know, legal history fact, did you know that like a long time ago that there was laws that there cannot be a rape between a husband and wife, like no matter what?
Yeah, there was no common law
or
rape.
Assault. Like it just couldn't happen.
John, do you handle sexual assault cases?
Oh yeah, a lot of them. I mean, we have huge ones right now. We have one against Marriott. The front desk girl was sexually assaulted by her supervisor, drugged and sexually assaulted. We have tons, dude. We do a lot of sexual assault stuff. I know a lot about it. It's very specialized. You need to know about it to be able to handle it correctly and know what to look for. And look, I've had cases that I was skeptical about, and I tell my attorneys there may not be a more reputationally damaging allegation than suing someone publicly and saying that they raped a woman or a man. I would say it could even be worse reputationally than murder. Like, you hear so-and-so in a fit of rage killed somebody, so-and-so raped and tortured somebody. I mean, which one? Pick your poison there. And so before I take a case like that, I am very cautious. I do my homework. I've had cases like one comes to mind. We had a woman who called our office who said that she was sexually assaulted while she was in New York by an NFL football player who was of high stature. It could have been a big case. Those cases, if true, that's, very serious, and those will be a big case. But something about it just didn't sit right. I started gathering the evidence. I started looking at it. And so I asked her, I said, all right, I'm willing to take your case if you do something for me. I need you to go see a polygraph, a lie detector, which is not admissible in court. Lie detectors are not admissible. There's some accuracy issues depending. But I wanted to see what she would say. And she wouldn't go. And so to me, that was a red flag, given my other feelings that, all right, you're not going to sit for a lie detector that's only going to be given to me. I'm sorry, I just can't take your case. I'm not going to make an allegation like that. So, yeah, I do a lot of them. I know a lot about them, but you also have to be trust but verify, as John F. Kennedy would say. So
it was interesting to be on the defense side of this one, and especially from a voir dire perspective, talking to jurors in advance about that kind of thing it's delicate, right? So
what was your jury makeup? Was there women, men, mix? Like, what was it?
I'd say we had a good mix. We had about 50% men and women, mostly middle-aged and up, which was a big help for us because we had a lot of mothers and grandmothers. And once for example, the wife went to her pediatrician 48 hours after she was allegedly raped and tortured and had a meeting with her pediatrician, told her nothing about it, and instead said, "Oh, my husband accidentally opened the car door and it bumped into my stomach, giving me this little bruise right here." And every woman on the jury stands going, "What?" Yeah, so when you get people with, we've been very successful, as you have, in front of juries, because we always preach common sense, one way or the other, right? That's what we go back to. And if people use their common sense, we tend to get very good results with credible clients and just common sense jurors.
Yeah, I agree. So good. That sounds like justice was done, although I'm sure it's a horrible experience for your guy, dude. I mean, how's he doing now? Is he
He's doing great. I see him every couple of months, every few months or so. We'll go to a
He's got to
basketball
be
game.
careful, man. He's got to be careful out there. Have you seen some, you told me that you saw some crazy stuff in your career. Like you see a lot of fights, you told me. Tell us what's going on here.
I don't know. So let me ask you this first, John. In the courtroom and outside the courtroom, like in the hallway, how many actual fist fights have you seen in your career?
Zero actual, a couple close. I have a really good ability to get people to want to punch me in the face, whether warranted or unwarranted. But we had one of my attorneys, Gasper Stare, is he's can even outdo me, and he had a defense attorney like check him. And the federal marshals had to come in. I remember when I was young, I was at a trial with Jeffrey Feiger, and one of the attorneys and this defense attorney were trying to like get in this like narrow area. And the defense attorney was just so sick of him. They were behind this like big board, so the jury couldn't see him. And he like body checked him and like almost threw him to the ground. And then the guy started complaining, hey, and he said, what? I didn't do anything. I mean, it was crazy.
I can't fathom that, man. I just cannot fathom getting to a point where I'm going to get physical with somebody in the courtroom. To me, it just means that you've completely lost your cool. It means that you're losing your case, you're out of control, and you're lashing out.
Yeah. You have to keep your composure and you have to keep your head in the game. So like any great sport, whether it's, tennis, golf, football, anything, there's the physical component, but there's also this mental component where you have to keep your head in the game, as that's where that phrase comes from. I'm usually pretty good at keeping my head in the game. There has been some occasions where I've lost it. It doesn't happen very often, but it usually involves in a defense attorney doing something that's completely inappropriate towards my clients. It's not about me, because I can put my ego aside, and say, I don't give a shit what a defense attorney says about me. I really don't care. They say, oh, I'm a dick. They say, oh, you're too tough. Oh, you're not polite enough, whatever. I don't care. The only thing that matters to me is what the jury sees and says and hears and what they think about me. And I try to be authentic. But I remember I had a case in my conference room. My client had a dock plate that was defective. A dock plate is a massive industrial machine that's like a ramp that goes up and down that you can load and unload semis. This dock plate was not maintained. It was defective. And when he tried to put it up, it went bow. And it fell on his foot, crushed his foot. He's completely disabled. He's dead now. But at the time, this guy was completely disabled. His foot was crushed like a pancake. They were going to have to amputate his foot because it just was so crushed, and you have all these nerves and stuff. Anyways, the guy's on painkillers. He's has a cane. He comes to his deposition. This deposition lasts like 8 hours. My guy didn't bring enough painkillers. He didn't realize how long the deposition was going to be. And the defense attorney started just belittling him. And he had written on this document, he had showed, the guy said, circle where the incident happened. And the guy couldn't get out of his chair because of his foot. So he said he pointed to the top right corner, which is where it happened and where was good for the case. And the defense attorney said, well, I'll circle it for you. And the defense attorney circled the bottom left hand of the paper to make it look like our guy pointed, just abusing a guy. I mean, just a lie. And I lost it. And there had been a lot of buildup to this, but I had totally lost control of my emotions. Because normally, you know, I can turn it on, but I lost it. And I said, you're lying. You're despicable. What you're doing here is wrong and unethical.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, get the fuck out of my office.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw him out of my office. I had it. And but I try not to do that. And that was a few years ago. But, you know, there's something about taking advantage of my client, you know, in that dastardly way that just rubbed me the wrong way. But anyways, long story short, yeah, I try not to do that. Bad things happen, and it usually never works to the benefit of your client. You know, a little righteous anger is fine, but totally losing control is not.
Well, to your point, though, you need to stand up for the people around you, whether it's staff. I mean, if I have attorneys, it's only happened a couple times, but if attorneys or clients are belittling or coming down on my staff, they're no longer my clients. First off, they're gone. And if it's another attorney, they'll never call the office again. They'll call me directly, and I'll tell them, you call my office again, you know, I'm going to come down to your office and we're going to have this conversation face to face. I have no problem telling people that.
Yeah,
you know,
but I agree, but you're not losing it.
No,
like losing it is where you're just like, you're not even, it's raw emotion. You're not like, as I was screaming, because I was screaming at this guy, like the secretary came, he had done all this other stuff I won't get into, but that's when you lose it, where you're not really controlling what you're saying or doing. Your emotions are controlling you.
Yeah.
So, but anyways,
you know, it's been several times. My dad was attacked in the courtroom. I don't know, 15, 20 years now.
What happened?
A witness. It was a trust and estate case. I think it was a trust contest or something. I think we were defending it at the time, but the witness, my dad got done cross-examining the witness. He starts to walk off the stand and just makes a beeline towards my dad's table and tries to go over the table. And my dad backs up. And the bailiff got to this guy almost immediately and like a linebacker, just laid him out and put the handcuffs on him. Needless to say, we won that trial. A few years later, I had a client who also, again, these trust and estate cases, there's a reason why they call it family law for dead people, because, man, the emotions run so hot compared to, right, your general civil litigation cases. And so, same thing. Family member comes off the bench and makes a beeline for the other family member, and they get their hands on each other for a minute until the bailiff gets on them. The biggest one I had, though, was I was trying a case about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was a family dispute. Again, we're trying to prove that my client was the daughter of a decedent, and she was born in Louisiana in the 1950s. And back then in Louisiana, if you were born out of wedlock, the dad's name was not on the birth certificate. This is, old school South. And so we had to prove that she was the daughter. And so, of course, we have cousins, other people come in, and there's one half of the family and the other half of the family. And we got done, and we had a really good day of cross-examination. And we go out for the lunch break, and two of them start chirping at each other. And the next thing you know, by the way, all women, it's 8 women just in a full-on Jerry Springer brawl in the courthouse. And my dad and I are running around banging on the other departments to get their bailiffs to come out. We're walking there's a jury trial going on next door. My dad busts in there and points to the bailiff. They interrupt their jury trial because they can hear everything in the hallway. It took 4 bailiffs. These people were fighting for minutes, and there was just trash everywhere, things knocked over. And eventually there was 8 people sitting in handcuffs outside the courtroom. And the judge comes out and he sees all this, everybody handcuffed, and he walks over to me and he just says something like, "Well, quite the kerfuffle out here, huh?"
That's funny. I mean, see it, like, if you saw that, like, I think it might've been like New Mexico or Nevada. But that dude who like jumped over the bench at the judge and like grabbed the judge and stuff, See, good things don't happen. Like, when you do that, right? Like if the jury sees that, I mean, you're toast. No. Tell me about, you had a case involving a murder in San Jose.
Yes, and this case I can talk a little bit about. We do have some confidentiality I cannot go into, but the public story is that there was a gentleman who lived in a wealthy suburb of San Jose, and he was murdered in a home invasion. Now, this gentleman was well known for having a number of prostitutes over at his house. He would have big parties at his house with 8, 10, 12 women coming over. And like an idiot, he gave one of these women the gate code to the house. So, of course, she has a brother in a gang up in Oakland, California. They come down and they're just trying to rob the older gentleman and his wife. They're just trying to rob the couple. And they gag the husband and wife. They make off with artwork and cash and things like that. Well, they didn't know the husband couldn't breathe. He asphyxiates on his gag and he dies. And so there's a whole criminal trial, obviously, that surrounds that. Well, we represented two daughters of one of the prostitutes who were his daughters. And so we had multiple trials to prove that they were the daughters, that they were entitled to a certain part of the estate. And we ended up getting them a very nice settlement. And then we agreed we wouldn't talk about anything that wasn't public. But one interesting part of the case was that I'm calling all these women, right, to ask them about their experiences with the deceased, and they're all really nice people, which is, by the way, never judge a book by its cover. I really actually enjoyed talking to all these women. One of them I call and she goes, "Is this Mike Crosby from California?" And I said, "Yeah, do I know you?" She goes, "Did you play basketball at University of California, Santa Cruz?" We call it UC Santa Cruz. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what I did, right? And I said, yeah, this is me. And she goes, "Oh, my name's Brooke. I also played there at the same time. We used to hang out at James's house and I'd see you. Da, da, da." I'm like, oh, so I knew this Brooke. I didn't remember her.
No way.
I knew her. It was just one of these small world coincidences where I got to go, explain that to my wife later on, which was pretty fun.
Yeah. How do you know this prostitute that you're representing?
All these women are calling you,
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it. What's the so we were talking about this earlier, but crazy things that attorneys will do to get out of a trial. All right. And I have a story. It's not mine. It's not mine at all. And I would never do this. I take it very seriously, but there's an attorney that when I was growing up that I heard who his trial wasn't going that well. And he had like a bad ACL from like a college injury or something. And he slipped and fell in the bathtub, so he says. And the EMS came. They had to take him to the hospital, and then he couldn't go to trial, right? So he had to call the judge. And we always wondered, like, did you really slip in the shower? Like, we were hearing the trial wasn't going so well. Like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And then suddenly you slip and fall in the shower. I mean, that seems kind of weak. So, I mean, I don't know. Have you ever heard of things like that? I mean, I'll go to trial with my arm hanging off if I have to.
Well, first, what was the result of that? Did he get a continuance or did he get a mistrial?
No, it was a mistrial. It was a mistrial because it was like the ACL. We don't know how long it's going to be. I think the judge might have been considering a mistrial and then they settled the case. Okay. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't my case. I just remember hearing about it at the firm that I was at. It was like,
well, we were up in Sonoma County. This is years ago, probably close to 15 years ago. My dad and myself, and this was a case involving a number of people who had invested in this piece of real property, and things had gone south. And we represented, I think, 108 individuals that we were defending against a wrongful foreclosure case, and the plaintiff was asking for $40 or $50 million because he would have built up this property into units, all sorts of condo units and things like that. So, anyways, we're in the middle of motions in limine, and we're just wiping out all of his damage claims, wiping them out left and right, one down, one down. My dad is just crushing them left and right. So basically, we finished up with motions in limine. Their experts are gone, and now their claim has been reduced from $40 or $50 million to like $750,000. I mean, literally like that over the course of a day and a half. So we're in the middle of jury selection. We break for lunch, and this guy on the other side, James, the attorney James, kind of a scumbag, honestly. And, you know, he's the guy who shows up for depositions. He shows up for depositions, and he's wearing a torn New England Patriots football shirt and basketball shorts, you know, and that's just how he shows up for stuff. He's probably in his 60s, looking kind of Slavish, you know, just like a Slav. Anyways, we're breaking for lunch, and he stands up and he says, Your Honor, I don't think I'm going to be able to come back from the lunch break. You know, he goes, I was in a car accident about 2 weeks ago, and it's just been getting worse and worse over the last couple of weeks. I just don't think I can continue. And the judge goes, well, we've been in trial for 2 days, and you haven't made
what?
Yeah, you haven't made one mention of this until right now. Are you serious? And he goes, yeah, I don't think I can continue. And the judge goes, no, you're going to continue. I'll see you back here after lunch. And he goes, James says, no, you won't. And the judge says, no, James, I order you to be back here after lunch. And he goes, you're not going to see me after lunch, Your Honor. You're not going to see me anymore. I'm not coming back. And the judge goes, well, you damn well better be back here when we get back from lunch. And so we break at noon, right? At 12:45, we get an email and a fax that James had called the state bar and went inactive. He made himself inactive on the state.
Oh my God. Oh, are you serious?
Dead serious. During the lunch break, he goes inactive. And that's not something that you can just switch off and switch on.
Well, how did he do it?
I think he called. I don't know exactly how he did it, but I know that you can call and just tell them, hey, my name is Mike Crosby, and you know, I'm no longer going to be practicing law, so please switch me to inactive, and they'll do it. And he told them he literally went inactive during the lunch break, and it took, from what I understood, it took him several years before he was able to be on active status again. But he went
What
inactive.
happened? Was the judge pissed?
So we come back from the lunch break, and it's just my dad, me, and the judge and our clients. You know, we had one class representative with us, and the judge is sitting here with his head in his hands, just going, "Well, I mean," and the defendants or the plaintiff is over there. Now, the plaintiff and the lawyer, they've been running this wrongful foreclosure scam together for a decade, right? They invest in property. If it goes well, they make money. If the property goes south, they sue for wrongful foreclosure and try to, you know, extort a settlement. That's what they've been doing for 10 years. So he's sitting here going, I don't know what you're talking about. My guy just left, you know, and he ended up getting another lawyer, and it took us like 8 years to finally settle the case because it went up on appeal and down and up on appeal and down. But I've never seen anybody go inactive in the middle of trial like that. I never will again. I just can't imagine that happening.
I wonder, did the judge do anything to that lawyer? Like, the judges I know would go ballistic.
No, I know he ended up in a 3-year lawsuit with his client for malpractice and fraud and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I have to imagine you're not coming back anytime soon from that.
No, it's a stain on our profession. You know, that's what's really sad. It's like a few bad apples, whether it's in the police, in the lawyers, in doctors, whatever. It always, you know, can give everybody else kind of that a bad name. You know, that's a shame that we have to tell these stories, but that's crazy. Well, dude, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking time, and we really enjoyed having you here, brother. Next time you're in Detroit, you know, don't forget about us out here. It's a nice place here. I
can't, John. I'll say it again. I very much appreciate you hosting. For those listeners out there, John hosted myself and 3 boys of mine on Father's Day up at a Tigers baseball game, and we just had a phenomenal time. It was actually one day before John was giving closing arguments in a $70 million verdict case. That was a pretty wild time too.
Yeah, I forgot it. 77 million.
77.
Like, don't. But yeah, you know, I made a commitment to you guys. get to drink any beer at the game, but that's okay. I didn't need it. I had to get back to work, but I wanted to see you and I wanted to see your family. So thanks for being on the show, man. And let's stay in touch, okay?
No, you're the best. I appreciate it.
It's been another great episode of Cases Gone Wild with my guest, Mike Crosby from San Jose, California. If you like our show, please share it with your friends and family. If you or someone you know needs help, I do not do rape hoaxes, torture hoaxes, or anything like that, but we'll get you hooked up with Mr. Crosby. You can give us a call, 313-777-7777, or go to markolaw.com. That's MARKO law.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in another 2 weeks on another episode of Cases Gone Wild.